All right, Don. So I'd like to ask you about how in the mid 90s we saw a switch from these full season sponsors to now, a couple of different companies appearing on the cars. What was that kind of like shifting from a full season sponsorship to now having multiple companies to work with throughout the season?
Well, I believe that there is a full story behind it. First of all, to best understand it, you've got to go back even before the 90s, and as the sport was growing, and it was on an upward trajectory, but not like happened after about 92. That's when, right in that area is when the when the baseball strike happened. And when the baseball strike happened, it was all going on at the same time. People were looking for sponsors, and the baseball strike looked like it was going to go on for a little bit longer than they thought. And all of a sudden, some of those sponsors left baseball, came into motorsports, got really involved with NASCAR, and the prices went up. The When the prices went up and the more money was being injected into the sport, and there were more and more fans coming to the racetracks, you can look back and see the expansion. I mean, they were building grandstands like crazy. They were everything was going up. The price of tickets was going up, and then the price of playing in the sport went up. So what you had at first was, or in that early part of the 90s, you had sponsorships that were in the $4 to $5 million area, and then they went to 10 million for a season with a really good high class car. By the end of the 90s, it was up close to 20 million for one car for the entire season. Well, a lot of the sponsors looked at it and said, "Well, hell, we can't afford that kind of money." So as a result, you started to see uh, teams that had been, uh, you know, Miller Lite all year long start to go from Miller Lite and then two or three races for Mobil One, for instance, and every team had the same situation. And then as people began to go back to stick and ball sports, and things started to change in the grandstand area, you started to see the prices start to come down for a year, but the prices were still very high for sponsorships. So you had multiple sponsors. You had already started that scheme prior to, you know, I'd say prior to 2008. You had probably better than half of the field with multiple sponsors for the entire season. At least three or four major sponsors, and then a lot of associate sponsors as well. So it was all driven by the price. It was all driven by the price of doing business. It was also driven by the price of the sponsorship, which was part of the cost of doing business. It's the same in every sport, all over the country, all over the world. Same time, same station.